Alrighty. So yesterday, um, I no. Okay, let's go back a little bit more. So there's a previous video that I did where I sat down right here and asked people for help because I've got into way over my head with a credit card. I know people are in worse debt, but I'm not happy with the debt. The plan when I started the credit card, and I'm going off on a tangent already here, was that I stay on top of the payments and use it to build up my credit rating so that Ellen and I could get a house and stuff like that. But it's gotten away from me, partly because our rent's gone up and other expenses have increased, and I couldn't keep on top of the payments, and other stuff. But anyway, what triggered this video is just that I'm still angry from the reactions to my appeal for help on a social media website called Neighborhood. Now, Neighborhood is an interesting social media website because it allows you to reach out to the people in your neighborhood. Which is, I set up the account when I started, when I came to Kidwelly. Particularly when I set up Odd-Job Antony, because I thought it would be a good way to find local clients that needed an odd jobber. And the reason why I started Odd-Job Antony in the first place was because I wanted to slowly get back on my feet after having come back to the UK from America. I was in America because I'd got married to an American girl when I was got out of uni, an American girl that I met at uni because she was an exchange student. And we were together for 10 years when I had tried really hard to make the marriage work, and it failed. I just couldn't make her happy. And one of the things that threw me off and made me realize that it was a pointless effort was that she told me that it wasn't my job to make her happy, which confused me greatly because I thought the entire role of a husband in a relationship was to make their spouse happy, and vice versa. So that made me realize a lot about the relationship, and it ended shortly after that argument. She also said in that same argument that she didn't believe in me anymore, which hurt a lot. So, funnily enough, though, that's part of the reason why I'm determined to try and make a success for myself, and why I find it so depressing and demoralizing when I make a big mistake like this and don't see a way out of it on my own, and why I need to ask for help. But I realize that I do know that asking for help isn't being independent and self-reliant like I want to be. So yeah, by asking for help, I've failed. But anyway, I'm sure I'll find a way out of it. Maybe there's other stuff, there's other irons in the fire that hopefully will come to fruition, and I'll be able to slowly climb my way out of this financial pit I've dug for myself. But yeah. Anyway, one of the things that came up in the conversation is because several people in the community, my neighbors responded very negatively to me asking for help. Basically told me I should grow up or pull up by myself by my bootstraps, just deal with it like everyone else does, basically. And I get that. I get that other people are struggling too, and I have no right to ask them for. I'm not asking them personally for money. Obviously, like, I thought it was obvious that if you're not in a situation to help me financially, that you don't have to. That I'm not asking you. I'm asking people that have that want to help, that are able to help, that can help. And I've also I thought I'd made it quite clear in the campaign that what I really want is help to grow my business so that I can do this myself. I just need a little push along, because the business is growing and word's getting out. It's just not growing as fast as my interest rates, which is unfortunate. But yeah, everybody's struggling right now. I get that. So yeah, I'm going to stop asking for help. However, this was nagging at me that one of the people said that people like me, because I mentioned also that I have ADHD and autism spectrum disorder, and I don't know if it was a comment on that or whether it was a comment on the fact that I was asking for help at all. But they said something along the lines of people like me should be digging ditches and emptying trash or stuff like that. That they should be basically, if I'm not self-sufficient enough, the impression I got is that they were saying that if I'm not self-sufficient enough to be able to manage my finances on my own, then I should be given shitty jobs. Which I think is very Victorian. Like I seem to recall that in Victorian times, it was common to give like street sweeping and sewage work cleaning to people who were mentally handicapped, because it was something that they could handle and could do with a smile. So I don't know if that was their intention, but that's the impression I got. And I pointed out that, and I also got the impression that basically they feel like I should be doing more to help the community instead of just going online and begging for money, which is not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to make my income by begging for money online. I'm trying to make an income by building a business, and because of the economy, because of the situation that everybody's dealing with the cost of living going up, I am struggling, and I know a lot of other people are too. But yeah, I thought maybe there'd be some people out there who would. Yeah, maybe. But in hindsight, I should have known that the people in my community would be unable or unwilling to help because of my experiences when I tried to be an odd jobber. Now, when I started odd jobbing, I was living with my parents in Kidwelly. I'd just moved back here I'd actually moved up north first to Dalton-in-Furness, where my grandparents were living, because I thought I could be of use there. Because my grandparents were getting old, and I thought that I could help take care of them, that I could do little jobs for them around the house to make life easier for them. But my granddad is very proud, and he didn't let me do anything for them, so I felt useless. And I struggled I did get some work up there. I worked in a bar, a couple of different bars for a while, one of which the boss was horrible and was vocally admitted that he deliberately paid minimum wage because he knew that people in the area were desperate enough to work for it anyway, and if they wanted to make more money, they should try going elsewhere, basically. But I liked some of the people I worked with until one of those people I worked with molested me, and then I couldn't work there anymore. So that was fun. So I just walked out of that job. I didn't go back. Got a job at a hotel as a night porter, which I thought would be much less people-y, and I'd be able to handle that better. But the problem with working at night and cutting yourself off from people entirely is that it makes you very depressed and lonely. And eventually I decided, especially since I felt so useless, for for my grandparents, I came down here to Kidwelly to get the support of my parents who had already moved down here, because my dad's the local vicar, or at least he was until he retired recently due to ill health. Vicar, for those of you who are American, is an Anglican priest, basically. Somebody who, a pastor in the Church of England. So, although down here it's the Church in Wales rather than Church of England. But anyway, yeah. Strange notification. So yeah, I moved down here with very little to my name. Again, I say again because when I moved from America back to the UK, I had literally sold everything I owned to combined with what little money I had left over to buy the plane ticket home, and had basically all that I owned was in my suitcase. And yeah. I've had to do that a few times now. But yeah, I moved down here to Kidwelly, and it's a nice place, and my parents were happy to let me move into the basement of the vicarage. And I knew I needed more time to recover mentally and emotionally, and my parents were willing to give me that time. But after a while, I felt like I wanted to have a bit more independence, so I started looking for work. And since I still didn't have a car at the time, I had to rely on public transportation, and that was a pain in the ass because Kidwelly is a relatively small town. In fact, most people would call it a village. It's that small, but the people around here insist that it's a town, so it's a town. Which is funny because I'm from Barrow-in-Furness, which is huge as far as towns go. In fact, in terms of population, yeah, it probably would be classified as a city if it weren't for the UK has these strange. In order to be classified as a city, you have to have a cathedral or a university, and I think Barrow has a university campus now, but it's not. It's not a city. It's because of that. It's big enough to be, but it doesn't fulfill the requirements. Anyway, tangents all over the place. And part of the reason why I tangent so much is because I have ADHD, which is something I was diagnosed with in the US. And I've recently been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder too. And I didn't know this at the time that I was going through all of this. I didn't know about the autism thing anyway. I began to have my suspicions because beginning with my marriage, when my my ex-wife, my then wife, was telling me that I needed to grow up and do better. So I read up as much as I can on self-improvement and my and tried to understand my mind and my behaviors because you know I very much wanted to do everything that she wanted to be everything she needed me to be, but I often struggled to actually do it. And now I know why. But anyway, yeah, I managed to get a job in Carmarthen, and they were willing to let me go a little bit earlier so I could get the last bus home. Because if I'd actually worked the full shift, I would have missed it, and then I wouldn't have been able to get back to Kidwelly. But it was working in a call center, and I'd done call center work before, mostly in debt collection centers and stuff like that in the US. But this was different. This was a company called We Compare It, and they the job was calling people up, telling people that their life insurance policy was due for a renewal, and we can just ask you a few questions and get that sorted out. But the problem was the people we were calling often, more times than not, did not have a life insurance policy. It was a cold calling scam. And if we managed to convince them, then we put them through. And I had enough knowledge of with my previous work experience, because I've actually climbed pretty high before before being brought low on multiple occasions. So I've experience and qualifications in business management studies and marketing and customer service and all kinds of shit. So sales, soft skills, what have you. I recognized that the part of the reason why they were getting rejected was because of the script, and I thought I could come up with a better script. I also recognized that the job involved lying to people, and that didn't make me feel very comfortable. And the people I worked with were obnoxious. And the next day, when I tried to go to work, I had a meltdown. I had a complete nervous break. I broke down into tears in the middle of the street, and each time I tried to get a step closer to work, I burst in. I'd pull myself together and try to get myself to work, and I would burst into tears again. I ended up having to call in sick. Now, part of my anxiety is that I told them that I would write this script because I was cocky, and I hadn't. I'd forgotten all about it as soon as I got home, probably because a strong part of it was I just couldn't face doing a job where I knew I was being dishonest. I like to believe in what I'm selling. I like knowing that what I'm doing is making people happy. And there have been several jobs that I've quit because I got the definite impression that the people that I was working for were not ethical. Now, I know that applies to most businesses, but basically, as long as I can delude myself that I'm doing good work, then I'm happy and determined, and I will work my ass off. But over the years, I'm 43 now, I've become increasingly untrustworthy of businesses. So now I work for myself. We compare it with the last employer I ever had. I started again. I still felt pretty useless, and I wanted to. One of the things that I learned that makes me happy is making other people happy. That I get a dopamine boost. Didn't even know I had a deficit of dopamine at this point, but I knew that it made me happy to make other people happy. I wanted to help people. And I also knew that there's a lot of old people in this community, many of which can't do the little things around the house that they used to do. So I put myself out there as an odd jobber, expecting to be helping with simple jobs. Cooking, cleaning, gardening, putting out the trash, getting stuff off tall shelves, hanging picture frames. And I charged accordingly, only £10 an hour to do that. But I had my my DIY tools and my gardening tools that I had accumulated, and my dad helped me pay for as well. And I went out into Kidwelly offering 3 different time slots, 10 to noon, 1 to 3, and 3 to 5. And at times I got pretty busy, but after a while, I don't know if you can know this about me, but I know this light washes me out, but I am a fairly pale person. I am white as a sheet. My ex-wife used to call me the ghost of snow. I burn in the sun. In fact, you can't see it in this light, but I have actually, it's healing already. But a few days ago, I went out and helped my parents do some gardening and caught the sun, and the sunburn is healing. But yeah, I was only out for a couple of hours and I burned. So I struggle with extremes of heat. I always have. For a while, I was okay with the cold over here because I'd been living in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and it's a lot colder there. But I've started to get affected by the cold again as well. Whenever you're cutting the lawns in the spring, in the summer, you inevitably get attacked around here by horse flies and stable flies that bite the crap out of you. Which was annoying. So I'd end up coming home covered in bites and scratching myself. And of course, a lot of the jobs involved a lot of kneeling. I had a kneeling pad, and I even had these pad things that were in my that were stuffed into my work pants. I had proper work pants with proper padding in them, but it would get, after a while, it would still freaking hurt. I would come home every day hurting and exhausted when I was busy, and when I wasn't busy, I would come home feeling dissatisfied because I needed to do more work to keep busy, and of course to make more money, especially once I had started making friends in the area, because in addition to feeling useless, I also felt lonely, so I wanted to make some friends. I didn't intend to end up in a relationship, but I did. I started the Games and Geekery Club for local gamers and geeks, and a surprisingly large number of people came to play board games and card games on the first session. And I met Ellen, my now girlfriend, through these gaming sessions. And after a while, she moved in with me into the basement of my parents' house, but that wasn't sustainable for long. We had to get our own place, and so we did. So we're renting a house now. It's affordable compared to, like, it's admittedly cheaper than a lot of the other places we've been looking at, but it has its problems. It also has its charms. But at the beginning of this year, the rent went up by £100, so that made my budget even tighter. But anyway, timeline's all over the place. I'm sorry. Anyway, I was odd jobbing. I realized I needed to make more money. So I increased my rates, and I started losing clients. And the work itself also got boring. It was the same work I'd always been doing, but I had long since stopped feeling like I was being helpful and started to feel like I was being taken advantage of, because people were asking me to do work that really required a professional. Like, I refused to do electrics because that was dangerous. But some of the jobs that I did were plumbing adjacent. I built shelving units from scratch. I did a lot of mowing and gardening, but that was okay. Like, stuff that, again, like, it wasn't just a trim. It was like stuff that really required knowledge of plants and gardening that I didn't have as an odd jobber. They needed a gardener, but they weren't willing to pay a gardener. They wanted me to do it. So yeah, I started to feel like I was being taken advantage of, and I started to get frustrated and bored. And then COVID happened, and so we were all on lockdown, and I couldn't go to people's houses and do the work anymore. I'd still had a little bit of gardening work because that allowed me to keep my distance, but that was still kind of naughty. So then I started. And of course, we couldn't meet up for the Games and Geekery board game and card game sessions anymore. So I took Games and Geekery online and started a Discord group. And at first, the idea was that we would play board games and card games online. but I didn't have a good way to do that, so I started doing D&D instead, because it's a lot easier to do especially if it's theater of the mind rather than requiring a tabletop at all. It's a lot easier to do D&D online. And now I run at the moment it's 8 games a week, I think, 7 or 8 games a week. And people pay me by monthly subscription, and I do still need to make more money, but I'm making more money more consistently than I did with Odd-Jobbing, and I don't feel like I'm being taken advantage of anymore. The people genuinely appreciate what I do for them, and I love it. And I get so much love from this community that, yeah, I'm not going back to Odd-Jobbing, no, especially not for these people who balk at paying me what I'm worth and try to get me to do stuff that I'm not qualified to do. No, stuff that. Not going back to Odd-Jobbing. For this ungrateful bunch of wankers. But and of course, like I said, there's also the physical aspect. It's a physically exhausting job. And I tried to get out of it even when I was doing it, and was trying to train up other people to do it, but I couldn't get other people to commit, and it didn't help that. Yeah, I spiraled. So Odd-Jobbing started by making me feel better, and then it made things worse. So yeah, I'm not going back to that. No. I love Odd-Jobbing. I loved Odd-Jobbing for a while, and I liked that it gave me some more independence, but it's run its course, and maybe I also felt like there was so much that needed to be done around here, or that needed to be done for me and Ellen, and I had no energy left to do it. I still keep myself so busy that I don't have time to do that stuff, but at least I'm not going to bed with a sore back and sore knees and burnt skin and bites. Yeah, screw that. So yeah, not going back to Odd-Jobbing. You can't make me. I love games and geekery. I love creating content. I would dearly love to get more content out there and more viewers, so that in addition to the money I get from Patreon subscriptions for running the weekly games, and the commission I get paid for the adventures I write for people, that I could also get a trickle of revenue from my YouTube channels. That would be lovely, but I need your help to do that. And I know I said at the beginning that I'm not going to ask for help anymore, but I'm not asking for money. All I'm asking is that you watch my videos to the end. And if you've got this far, thank you very much. You're awesome. As well as like, subscribe, and share these videos with other people. Now, I know this one's probably not the most entertaining, but it gives you an insight into my personal history, I guess. And just lets me rant a little bit about the bastards online. So yeah, I just did this video to get this off my chest and say, no, I'm not going back to Odd-Jobbing. I like being Anthony M. the DM. I like running games and geekery. I like running Draconian Gateway. And yeah, okay, there was another comment in that same thread that about me having started 3 YouTube channels, and all of them, and if none of them have made any money, why don't I just give up? Because you have to keep putting content out there. The more content you have out there, the more likely you are to get spotted and noticed by the people who will like your content. If you only put 1 or 2 videos out there, no one's going to see them. The more content you've got out there, the more exposure you have. It's like increasing your surface area. you're going to absorb more moisture if you have a larger surface area. And these videos, all of these videos are increasing my exposure to the world so that I can hopefully absorb more attention, get more dopamine, and more importantly, actually build my business and get stay on top of my finances. That would be nice. Yeah. So if you love me and want me to be happy and want to help me pay my bills, you don't have to donate to the GoFundMe, which I'm probably going to, well, I may leave it open just in case people donate to it. You don't even have to buy merch from my website or hire me to write an adventure for you. All I'm asking you to do is to subscribe to my channels. So there's this one, Anthony and the DM, and there's Draconian Gateway, which is my play-by-post game. That's a game that's absolutely free to play. And the objective is that it would be paid for by YouTube ads. And finally, last but not least, there's the Games in Geekery YouTube channel, where I stream the games that we play on the YouTube Discord, and on the Games and Geekery Discord server. YouTube Discord? Anyway, so, and if we do have some slots open in the games, if you want to join a game, but my rate is £25 per month, and that would give you 4 monthly games in a game, in a month where there's 4 weeks. So yeah, you get a 3 to 4 hour game, usually a 4-hour game every week. So that ends up being 16 hours of Dungeons and Dragons every week for just £25 a month, which I think is a good deal, especially since you get to be a part of the awesome Games and Geekery community. You get to talk to me about D&D and other geekery and games, and you also get to access to all the homebrew I create for Scale Bunny and the Games and Geekery universe as a whole. So I didn't put a link in the description to the Discord server, so you're going to have to leave a comment and ask me for it. Maybe I'll add it. There is a link to the website though. And yeah, so now I've got that off my chest. I need to go back to, I need to go pick up Ellen from her course now. And in the meantime, no matter what role you play, have a good game.